Man versus evil. It's a constant battle. The human population has been fighting forms of evil for all its life. Temptation, greed, and hatred are a few examples of things that people have battled all their lives. Some say that there's no escape from evils like these. The Village by M. Night Shyamalan gives people a great example of man versus evil. This film was set in an earlier time where advanced technologies have yet to be developed, more of a modern time. Woods surround this rather small town, which acts as sort of a barrier. The people of this town never leave this so-called barrier due to their fear of what is beyond them. According to the elders, there are creatures known as those we don't speak of, that threaten any who enter the woods. Out of fear of what might happen if they do, none of the citizens of this village ever venture out into the wooded area. Except Ivy Walker. Death threatened someone Ivy loved, and because of this, she decided that the best action she could take would be to make the journey to another town in order to retrieve medication. Although Ivy was terrified to go into the woods all by herself, her love for Lucius pushed her to do what she thought could save him. Her love for him subsided all of her fears. Shyamalan creates man versus man and man versus nature conflict to illustrate how love conquers fear. In this scene, we see Ivy explaining to her father why she would like to go into the woods and make the trip to another town in order to retrieve medication for Lucius. Viewers can see subtle hints of Ivy's emotions. We see tears in her eyes and can hear her voice trembling, which indicates how scared she is. She loved Lucius so much that even though she was terrified to go out into the woods, she would still risk her life for him. On one side, she wants to save Lucius' life. On the other side, there are great dangers in the woods. Shyamalan creates conflict by having to make Ivy make a decision. Is Ivy willing to put her life in danger for someone she loves? Here, viewers watch as the outsiders threaten the people and enter the village's barrier. Ivy was standing right in the doorway of her house that led outside, vulnerable to any of the monsters. But this didn't stop Ivy from waiting for Lucius. The rest of Ivy's family was already in the cellar, but Ivy was reluctant to hide, for Lucius had yet to return to her. She was available to be attacked by the outsiders. In fact, an outsider was in the shot, and we could see it approaching her. But she did not close the door and hunker down, for Lucius would be locked out. Ivy risked her life for him and dismissed all fear because she loved him. Everyone was terrified, including Ivy, yet her love for Lucius prevented her from retreating. Her love disregarded all of her fear. Here, in this scene, we see Edward Walker, Ivy's father, explaining to the other elders Ivy's choice to make a trip to the other towns. Obviously, they were astonished and slightly taken aback by what Edward was saying. They almost thought it wasn't right. Ivy wanted to travel to the other town in order to retrieve medicine for the other people of the town, but more importantly, Lucius. These medicines would save his life. Ivy's father knew that she loved him, but he also knew that the elders vowed never to return to the outside world, or the other towns. By having this contradiction between Ivy and her father, Shyamalan builds a sense of tension and struggle. Ivy wants to go to the other towns and lets her father know. Ivy's father has to overcome his fears of what might happen to her in order to let her go. Edward's love for his daughter overcomes his fear of what might happen to her if she ventures into the woods. These three scenes from the village, among many others, help viewers to understand just how much people are able to do even though they are terrified. We see just how powerful love is. Even though Ivy's love was threatened by entering the woods, she still made the journey due to her love for Lucius. The village is a great example of how even though many things terrify people, love is always there to subdue any feelings of despair or terror.